Hello, everyone. I am Brandon Hay at HeyB3. I am by myself tonight without Zare. We're just going to wrap up, or I'm just going to wrap up the season tonight. But just a few announcements. Zare is actually going to be doing the Scouting Academy, a course to help him better see what we're looking for in film and everything, and I hope to gain lots of knowledge from him. So he will be very busy the next few months. So he will be off of the show up until probably the summer. Whenever he can pop in, he will. We will have shows with both of us. So until that time, during the off season, we'll have a biweekly stream and podcast with just me, and then when I can, I will have co-hosts or guests. So if anyone wants to do that, please reach out to either me, Hey B3, or at WTF and Fantasy on Twitter to co-host. We'll probably do some mock drafts leading up to the NFL draft and just go over some of the off-season content. So that's some announcements. And another announcement that I kind of decided we would do to kind of up our subscribers on YouTube and to thank everyone that's been listening to the podcast and the stream is we're going to have a fantasy playoff challenge. So I will put that out later tonight after the stream, and I'll give the link. And all you have to do is just send a quick screenshot of the showing that you're subscribed. I'll give the password for that, and everyone can sign up. And whoever is the winner will get a $50 gift card to DraftKings. So that's something that we can fun little challenge. I will do it. I haven't ran that past my co-host, but I'm sure he will join too, so we can kind of all battle it out. So that's kind of all that. So what I thought first of all, since I'm going to go over today is on episode 2. We talked about our hot takes for the season, so I wanted to kind of go back and look through those. And since Zare isn't here, I'll kind of go through his too, and we'll kind of just see where we went wrong, because I think it's important not to only celebrate your successes, but kind of learn from your mistakes. I think for all the people that follow us, they want to know where we went wrong too, because not everyone doesn't get everything right. So for Zare, we'll go over his first. There was a lot of Jacob Harris hype before the season, and he said that he would be third in yards for the Rams. That did not work out because, first of all, he got hurt later in the season. But in 9 games before his injury, he only had 15 offensive snaps. So he definitely did not reach that third in yards because he did not receive any stats for the season other than the snaps he played, and he played some special teams. Second was Joe Mixon, was running back 1, he said. And that actually was not far off. He ended up as running back 4. He had a very good season, stayed healthy all season. I think the main thing there was a lot of people were fading Joe Mixon because of his injuries, and kind of not paying off last year. And this year he did very well. So I think that's a win for that hot take. And this next hot take did not go well. Paris Campbell as the wide receiver 1 for the Colts. That did not go over well. I like Paris Campbell, but he just can't stay healthy. He ended up 9th on the team for yards, and he only played 6 games, so it kind of went along with that same thing. And a lot of people, including myself, were doubting that Michael Pittman could be the leading receiver for that team, and he was, and he had a very successful year. So now on to my takes. First was that 4 rookie wide receivers would be top 25 in PPR. There actually was 3 that were the top 25, and Devonta Smith was at 30, so that wasn't that far off with that. But I will be honest, the 4 that I had were Jamar Chase, Elijah Moore, Rashad Bateman, and Jalen Waddle. Waddle and Chase were 2 of those in there, but the third was St. Brown. Bateman had some injuries and inconsistency, and Elijah Brown also. Elijah Moore also had some injuries, but I think he could have been up there. So I was wrong on the players, but I was pretty close on the 4 rookies being the top 25. It was actually 4 rookies in the top 30. My Nets was Terry McLaurin would be a top 5 wide receiver. I was under the impression that Ryan Fitzpatrick would be the quarterback. He got hurt early, and Taylor Heineke just was up and down. That offense never really found its footing. So McLaurin was never top 5. He started off the season strong, I thought, but he ended up finishing 25th. He did still get over 1,000 yards, and I think better days are here to come, and he is definitely in Dynasty a buy because I think he'll have a bounce that season because even in this horrible season for the Washington football team, he still was able to put up over 1,000 yards and 5 touchdowns. I know that's in a longer season, but he did, I believe, miss some time also. And my last was Kyle Pitts and Hayden Hurst would both be top 10 tight ends because they would use them both. The Falcons kind of were, an anomaly this year with Cordero Patterson really, becoming one of their top options, running back and, wide receiver. Kyle Pitts was top 10, and he was the number 9 in PPR. He had a great rookie season. Hayden Hurst ended up as tight end 38, so that was very wrong. Hurst did miss some gains, but he was not nearly as involved as I thought he would be. So he did, get a few touchdowns, but definitely I was off on that. So I would say I would give us 1 out of 3. So we both went 1 out of 3, and the other 2 really weren't close being correct. So those are some of the hot takes from early on. So next, I wanted to kind of go over something that I started this season was doing projections for redraft for our players and kind of ranking them. So as you can see on the screen, and for those on the podcast, I'll kind of go through it. We have my QB preseason projections of the top 12 quarterbacks, and then we have the QB final rankings. So the way I'm kind of grading myself is not, pick by pick, but how many out of the top 12 ended in the top 12. So for my preseasons, I had, Josh Allen, Russell Wilson, Patrick Mahomes, Kyler Murray, Lamar Jackson, Dak Prescott, Tom Brady, Ryan Tannehill, Justin Herbert, Justin Fields, Matthew Stafford, and Aaron Rodgers. So I ended up getting 9 out of the 12 quarterbacks in the top 12 correct. So 75% rate on that. So I think that's pretty good. I guess the right quarterback is number 1, Josh Allen. And a couple quarterbacks that I did not have in there, I believe, let's see. Justin Herbert definitely did better than I thought. Same with Brady. Mahomes was around the same place. I had Russell Wilson as number 2. And as we all know, he had a rough season, so he didn't make it up there. I also had Justin Fields as top 10. He didn't play some games, had some struggles. That whole Bears team had some struggles. I like him going forward, but he definitely didn't live up to all of that hype. So just to run down the final rankings, it was Allen, Herbert, Brady, Mahomes, Stafford, Rodgers, Prescott, Burrow, Hurts, Murray, Cousins, and Tannehill. Cousins was not in my top 12 also. And let's say Kyler Murray definitely fell. Some of that was injury. Some of that was, poor play after his injury. But, that's for quarterbacks. So now we'll move on to running backs. I did not do nearly as well with this. I got 5 out of 12. I had on top Kamara, then McCaffrey, Derrick Henry, Cook, Zeke, DeAndre, Eckler, Chubb, Barkley, JT, Aaron Jones, and Antonio Gibson. As you see in the final rankings, Jonathan Taylor finished first. I was wrong about that. I actually made a bet in the offseason that DeAndre Swift would outperform Jonathan Taylor on a week-by-week basis in PPR. I was wrong. My main thinking was not that I did not like Jonathan Taylor, but that they use so many different backs that they would not give him enough carries, enough touches, the receiving aspect. As we saw, especially in the second half of the year, they started feeding him more, and he just showed how great he really is. So that he finished up there. So, and then we see, Eckler had a great season with the receiving part. Najee Harris, I did have him in my top. I did not have him in my top 12. I apologize. So Najee Harris made it up there, had a great season, a lot of checkdowns from Big Ben. As I talked earlier, Mitson was up in the top 4, and I did not have him. Another surprise, or the next two are surprises, James Conner and Leonard Fournette. I was down on both of them, and they really performed. So I was wrong on that, and I had very little of them on my fantasy teams. Then for all the bad talk about Zeke, he finished, running back 7. It might not have been the prettiest how he got there, but he still finished up there. And then we have Alvin Kamara. That Saints offense was up and down all season. That's one of the things I'm really interested in the offseason. Are they going to be able to find that quarterback and find some more weapons? What happens with Michael Thomas? Because Kamara, his ability was really hindered with the inability for them to move the ball some, and for him to get those check down passes that Drew Brees would always give him for him to be able to run and get more touchdowns in the red zone. Then you have Cordell Patterson. Like we said, no one really saw this coming. He kind of tailed off at the end of the year, but with the Falcons not really having a true running back, Mike Davis was a big disappointment. And, he was used a lot in the red zone, and, kind of someone Matt Ryan really looked for. 10 is Antonio Gibson, a couple spots higher than I had him. He battled some injuries, and the thing with him early in the season is when J.D. McKissic was healthy, they kind of split time, and McKissic was, I thought, more of the third down back, but they kind of split time, and then J.D. McKissic would get some of those goal line carries. But Gibson got a little healthier later in the year, and I think he still shows, great promise and skill. So maybe, with a little bit of a, down here, because some people thought he might move up, maybe you can go out and get him. I would, because I think, he's going to continue to get that workload, especially if they get a quarterback that can upgrade the passing game. 11 is Aaron Jones. I had the same exact spot. In 12 is Josh Jacobs. I did not have Josh Jacobs in my top 12. Worried about the Raiders, but he had a pretty good season, and we'll see moving forward how they kind of use him moving into the next year, depending on what their coach situation is. So Kenyon Drake got hurt, and they didn't really have another running back, so I don't know if that is, really him taking over that backfield more and having more usage, or if it's just because they were missing Drake, who was kind of their change of pace back. So the wide receivers also, got 5 out of 12, 42% correct. Same kind of troubles to start off. This is another one I got totally wrong before the season. I've said this on Twitter and on shows I've been on that I was wrong very early about the Rams. I thought Matthew Stafford would favor Robert Woods and not Cooper Kupp. I thought Cooper Kupp was just the short, intermediate route guy, the one that was kind of, his production was kind of increased by Jared Goff not throwing the ball down the field. And in reality, it was Jared Goff keeping Cooper Kupp down, because early on, Cooper Kupp showed that he had this connection with Matt Stafford. And as you can see, he finished as wide receiver 1. So I was very wrong on that. And that cost me in some leads, because I strayed away from Cooper Kupp, went after Robert Woods. Woods had a couple of good games, but then he got hurt, about a little before midway through the season. So we'll see, about him coming back, especially since Odell Beckham's there, and see, if they retain him. So my preseason projections started off with Diggs, then went to Devontae Adams, Calvin Ridley, DeAndre Hopkins, Justin Jefferson. McLaurin, A.J. Brown, Mike Evans, Tyreek Hill, A-Rob, DK Metcalf, and Robert Woods. As you can see, I was high on Robert Woods, and that didn't really pay off. There were some, names that no one probably would have thought before the season would finish in the top 12. So we have Cooper Kupp as 1, Devontae Adams as 2. So I got that exactly right. 3 was Deebo Samuel. I've always liked him, but he's always been injured. And this year he was able to, finish the whole season. Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase. I had Jamar Chase just outside my top 12. Then Tyreek Hill. Stephon Diggs had a great year. Not a great year. Another good year, but not nearly as good as last year. Deontay Johnson was really one of the big receivers for Big Ben. Mike Evans, Hunter Renfrow. A lot of people question him. He doesn't look, like he should be able to do all of this on the football field, but he has, great hands, and he's great route running, and he's just someone that Derek Carr can depend on. And finishing out with both Chargers receivers, Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. I did not see either of those finishing that high, and I think that's why I had Justin Herbert, I think 9, so that was part of that. DK Metcalf was one that I had in the top 12 that didn't meet expectations. We'll see what the Seahawks kind of do moving forward. Allen Robinson, I think he just wants to get out of Chicago. A.J. Brown's one, he did not finish in the top 12 a lot because of the injuries he missed, but as we saw in some of the games, especially the game against the 49ers, he is an elite talent. It's just, going in, you're just going to have to weigh his injuries. This year he missed way more games than before, but even last year, it came out that he had such problems with both of his knees, but he is an elite talent when he plays. So for me, he's still a top 5 wide receiver, but I could understand people that would drop him down further because of those injury concerns. And we'll finish out the projections with the tight ends. So this one, I did a little better, sits out 12, 50% correct. I went pretty chalk with the top 3, went Kelsey, then Waller, Kittle. Then I had Pitts, Hawkinson, Jonnu Smith, Andrews, Fant, Tanyan, Logan Thomas, Jared Cook, Dallas Goedert. Let me just say, first of all, the Jonnu Smith one, I was very excited for him in free agency to go to another team. He went to the Patriots. I thought he would be the more used tight end than Hunter Henry, and I was wrong about that also. And then Tanyan got injured. Logan Thomas got injured. So that was and Noah Fant just doesn't have a good quarterback, so that kind of caused that. So the final rankings, Andrews had a spectacular year as 1. I would say I ranked him at 7, partially because with them getting receivers like Rashad Bateman, I thought they would throw the ball to the receivers more. With Bateman missing some time, that was probably, part of that reason, but it just showed that Andrews is just, a target monster. And even with Huntley, he still continued to have great games. Then Kelsey, he started off the season super strong. Near the end of the season, had dealt with some injuries and then did not have nearly the big games that we're used to. He had some games with touchdowns and only a few catches. So in playoff time, he probably didn't give you exactly what you're hoping for. Next was Dalton Schultz, which I just imagined him and Blake Jarwin would split time, and they could equal out to be a tight end, top 12 tight end, but not, one of them. But Schultz showed that he is taking that spot, and Dak looks for him a lot. So I think he is definitely someone to watch out for, in the next couple of years, because I would think they would want to stick with him. That's George Kittle. He really showed, pretty healthy year this year and just showed how dynamic he is and how great he is on that offense. Next was Zach Ertz. I didn't have Ertz in my top 12 mainly because he was still in the Eagles. I thought if he went somewhere else, he'd be higher. He did in season to the Cardinals and, showed his skill. And then Kyle Pitts at 6. He started off slow, only had that 1 touchdown, I believe, but he, broke some rookie tight end records. And I think he's going to be a corner piece of their team, and it's depending on, the Calvin Ridley situation, if he comes back to the team, or what other weapons they get around him, because he was really the other than Cordero Patterson, which as you saw, he kind of just went away near the end of the season. They need more weapons for that team. Rob Gronkowski, I wasn't sure how the Bucs would really use him, but with the wide receiver injuries and him just having that great connection with Brady. Goddard, I had him at 12. He ended up at 8. I think he could have even ended up higher. He's had some costly drops throughout the season that could have given him more yards and touchdowns, but it seems like him and Jalen Hurts really have a good connection. Mike Gesicki, he is at 9. He's had games where he gets 0 targets, but then other games where he does very well. Then we have Hunter Henry, who, as I said, I thought Jonnu Smith would have the bigger role. And then Dawson Knox has really started off really strong, and now is a little bit touchdown dependent. But with Josh Allen being, the number 1 quarterback 2 straight years, and I'll probably rank him on top for year 3. And Dawson Knox being a red zone target, and he's just going to continually be there for them. So, he's one of those tight ends that if you don't go for the tier 1, he's definitely someone that you should look for next year. And then in Dynasty, probably a higher price now, but he's someone that I think I would be willing to go for in a startup, or try to get him if the price isn't too steep. And Noah Fant still finished 12 at tight end 12. I'm hoping the Broncos upgrade the quarterback position, get a more offensive coach to get that offense going. Drew Lock struggled, and Teddy Bridgewater is what he is. He's more of the check down and does not really push the ball down the field. They're more run-heavy team. So that's kind of, I hope for him and, Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, and, Fant, and all those running backs they get. They get something going on the offense in the offseason and moving forward. One thing for the Broncos I'll be interested to see is KJ Hamler, who's hurt this year, but I was very high on him coming out of Penn State. Didn't love when he was picked by the Broncos, and then they picked Jeudy the next year. I would wonder, with that kind of crowded wide receiver room, if maybe they would trade him or something, and I'd be interested depending on where he would end up. So those are projections, and something I want to do again next year. I was learning, about how to do that, all the targets and everything, and how to go on previous production and players moving to different teams, coaches moving around. And I think another thing that I didn't weigh in enough was all the positive COVID tests that caused players to miss time. And then also just weighing in that players moving to different teams and just thinking they were one player just because they were on that team, like Leonard Fournette living in Jacksonville. I just did not see him being, this great running back, but it was the Jags holding him back. The Buccaneers, Tom Brady looks for him often, and he's a much stronger runner. So that's definitely something I want to look at going forward. So now just kind of, this is the off-topic, fun type thing. In the past week, I've been looking for things to watch. So in the past week, I found out that all 3 of the trilogy of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles back from the 90s was on there. Watched all 3, and I just want to talk about those. So first thing for me is I did not remember that there was 2 different April O'Neils. There was one played by Judith Harang in the first original movie, and Paige Turco in The Secret of the Ooze and the Turtles in Time, the second and third movie. I will say I liked the first April. I don't really know why. I just thought she had I don't know. I just liked her better than the other ones. If I have to rank the 3, I would say The Secret of the Ooze is my favorite, then the original movie, and Turtles in Time third. Still enjoyed watching Turtles in Time, but I thought it wasn't nearly as strong of, kind of a story, and it the fight sequences and everything I didn't like as much. I guess part of that is that the Shredder died in the second movie, in The Secret of the Ooze, so that's possibly part of the reason. But just definitely didn't like it as much. I guess there's a more in-depth storyline in between characters. In Turtles in Time showed the softer side of Raphael, but didn't like it nearly as much. Another thing I noticed in The Secret of the Ooze, for the ones that don't know, Shredder failed in the first movie. He survived. So in the second movie, he decided he wanted to create mutants with the ooze that they found. So he kidnapped one of the scientists to do that, and he created Toka and Razor, a turtle and a wolf or a fox. But it ended up that when they were mutated, they were children, babies, as he said. So they called him Mama at first. And then he kind of trained them to kind of destroy the city, and they were supposed to kill the Ninja Turtles and everything. And so the turtles had to fight them, and they ended up using serum to make them turn back into um, the animals they were. So a little turtle and fox slash wolf. And I was just thinking during the whole thing that they are just misunderstood. It was not their fault that they were told by Shredder to attack the turtles and to attack the city. They're just babies. That's how they're trained. So I think they get a bad rap in the movie, and I that's just my opinion on that. So yeah, I really enjoyed all three of those movies. And if you love the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, I would say to go on. If you have Netflix, and you can watch them and relive some of those times. I do think it's interesting that between the movies and the cartoon, that the personalities of the turtles are a little different. I think Raphael is a lot more angry and meaner in the movie than the cartoons, and I think Donatello is a little more serious than in the cartoon also. So those are just some of my thoughts of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movies. So I'll just finish up with, I guess, just some, just some thoughts I had about the season and how it kind of went, and more things that, I got wrong. So I thought that the Jaguars with Urban would do better. I thought they might not win more than 4 or 5 games, but I thought the offense would look better, and they did not. I think it hurt that Etienne and Chark were out, but I think better days are for Trevor. He played much better in the finale, but he definitely had his issues throughout the whole season also. I think a big thing is all these rookie quarterbacks, to an extent, struggled. Matt Jones played the best, which he was a surprise for me, but I think part of that is the team he was on and the scheming and how Belichick, kind of didn't make him win games. You've seen down the stretch. He hasn't played horrible, but not nearly, up to his what he was doing earlier. Part of that is going to be said, his weapons, which is part of it. But also, he's made some bad reads, but he's definitely been the best quarterback. Zach Wilson's probably been, his big parts have been mostly with his legs rather than his arm. He's had a couple nice throws, but he still struggles with reads. Justin Fields, up and down. You see, some of the high points. Trey Lance, you saw in the last game he started that he looks the part in limited time. So I think that's another thing. I think these wide receivers will continue to grow. I like a lot of those. It was another interesting part was the Chiefs, how they kind of went, kind of up, way down, and back up. And a lot of that more was their defense playing better, and Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid kind of changing their offense to know that they can take the shorter passes and they don't have to just go deep all the time. So that'll be interesting, them continuing evolve. And a bit the disappointing teams this year. Obviously, the Browns had tons of injuries. Once Baker kind of messed up his foot, his hip, his shoulder, they should have shut him down for the season because he just could not perform, make the throws, and also he was making horrible decisions. So before the season, I thought he could be a borderline quarterback 1, but now he's truly a quarterback 2, probably quarterback 15 through 20. So fine as your quarterback 2 in super flex. Now they're the Washington football team. Terry McLaurin isn't totally quarterback proof. They had struggles with that. The defense struggled. So it'll be interesting what they do in the off season. Obviously the Chargers, they won a bunch of games and then they lost bad games to the Texans and then they lost that last game to the Raiders. But I will say I love Justin Herbert and I think they could get him a couple more weapons, and kind of figure out what's going on with that team. Staley, is using the analytics to go for the fourth downs, but in the games I watched, that really came back to bite them. So that's, some of my thoughts for the season. We'll talk more about this in the off season. And like I said, be on the lookout. I will put out that link for the playoff competition. I think it's on NFL.com. You pick a starting lineup each week for each week of the playoffs. So I will put that out, and then we'll continue with the podcast every 2 weeks. So I will see you guys in 2 weeks. So enjoy the playoffs this weekend.